would have liked to see a different 20.
All right, well, we are one game into this series now. We're going to check out the Battleground pool once again. Even in Death has chosen to pick the Battleground, and it's taking us to Tomb of the Spider Queen. Another Even in Death Battleground that they like. They tend or trend toward these smaller Battlegrounds.
So, judging by what we've learned in game number 1, Superstars is going to draft very heavy wave clear, and they are going to lose the early parts of the game. But then the late game team fighting is going to somehow come online in the staggering of deaths. I would actually, a lot of that was because late game compositionally they had the advantage to the global. So let's say that that doesn't exist here, which it can't because a map like Tomb doesn't kind of thrive in that department nearly as hard as Dragonshire. Does Even in Death win this game now?
I like that ban. I feel like Even in Death, having watched their last 2 series, Dragonshire is their strongest Battleground. I could be wrong on that because obviously we've only seen 2 series from them. The Battleground they won versus No Tomorrow in the Crucible was actually Sky Temple. But having seen how they played on Dragonshire versus Tempo and now versus Superstars there, it felt like that was their strongest, so we'll have to see. Superstars, though, know again that Even in Death loves their Vala Ariel composition, going to take that right off the block.
I would like... with the Ariel, I don't know if the Tassadar is as worth of the ban, but I know that with any time that I know I can get a lot of value out of the W on Tassadar for the minion control, smaller maps, I like to see attention paid to that. But Malthael is removed. So this series is a little bit different. A lot of attention onto the Malthael.
I have a feeling that Superstars probably would have brought him back out here. But that leaves Genji up.
Flashy plays coming out from Superstars here. Even in Death, immediately Uther and a new Barak. That is a very generic transition there coming out from them. Powerhouse and Powerhouse, both in the Warrior and support roles. And then Superstars. Now that you have the Genji, they haven't committed to wave clear with the Genji, obviously. Not his strong suit until maybe 20 with penetrating Shuriken.
Sharpened Stars.
There you go. Always got the talent names. Absolute legend.
Got you.
I don't...
Is this the first time Superstars are playing Genji? I think it is.
And in fact, is. You are correct. Showing, again, how much emphasis we see Superstars typically put onto wave clear, less into those skirmishing type heroes. I just expect it to be like Mouth Gul'dan or something. Like, honestly, I just see them sticking. I don't see Superstars all-inning into team fighting, even though now that they pick Genji, I want it. It just doesn't hit their playstyle. They've always been a macro-focused, wave-clear-focused team.
What about Dahaka, though?
Yeah,
Dahaka Gul'dan.
As long as it's something focusing on to wave clear, I don't see them going, you know what, this is the time. Bust out the Li Ming, double reset comp, this is it. It's just going to be, nope,
yeah.
We got Genji, but let's go wave clear a little bit more. Like,
we'll step out of our zone a little bit.
Yeah, just dabble. I heard Genji's pretty cool. I've watched a lot of people make flashy plays. He's probably relevant. We can pick him, but everything else has got to be traditional.
I'm interested to see who plays like Genji. Looking at what we have now, I'm guessing Hosty. Malfurion ban, taking advantage of the fact that Even in Death already has Uther. Superstars will take away Tassadar.
So what do we see for Even in Death? What is Even in Death's traditional response to Dahaka matchups? Do we have actually enough data on them to know? Give me a second here. A Leoric last time, or we've seen him take a Leo into the Dahaka.
And on Tomb.
So then my guess would be the Leo. Arthas is the other option that stands out to me, right? Is like having the Arthas into the Dahaka. Illidan is not as impactful on a map like this. We go Tychus Greymane. That means last pick Stitches? Almost 100%, right? You got Tychus for the burst, Greymane for the burst, make sure that thing dies. It doesn't fit their comp too well.
You really think they'll go a new Barak and Stitches?
At this point, I don't know enough about Even Death to honestly be able
Fair.
to tell you that. We're slowly learning, but it's like, I guess I didn't expect a Tychus Greymane transition out of them, and that usually is like, what does that add up to? Stitches, one of his best maps. You know, you have the Uther follow-up, you got Tychus for the burst, Greymane for the follow-up. Like, they have a lot that would lead into it, and Stitches isn't terrible in a solo either. He's not great because you don't get any hook value early game, but, you know, it's one of the trade-offs. A new Barak can kind of baby into that, but I don't look at this as like, you know what, this is where Leo thrives.
Usually when Even and Death draft Stitches, though, they have it specifically with Kael'thas.
That's a good call.
Which makes me think that it's probably back to the Leo.
Yeah. Superstars, I expect more wave clear out of them. A Varian and a Rhaegar. What do they see? Did they expect that to be a Varian? Why that Varian there, Gilly?
I'm also
just
wondering
the Tychus?
Yeah.
Tychus, but that's not enough of an argument to take the Varian. As your solo frontliner? Maybe. Typically,
do they expect an Even and Death Illidan?
I think it's more of just, I honestly don't know. The reason, I feel like we should break this down because it's kind of, most people may not understand why the Varian seems so strange there, is not to have Varian as a double warrior. It's just naturally he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And when you have a Varian, it's one of two things. You have a lot of single target bursts, early game kill potential that you want to follow up on, or you've got somebody on the other side who's so fast, so squishy that you can just get one taunt kill them. Tracer, Genji, perfect example of those type of heroes. There's no way that's drafted on the side of Even and Death in this rotation. So then it's good into the Tychus a little bit because the auto attacks proccing with the, Parian build. But they go with a Diva.
All right. I was waiting for that.
For the Diva?
Yeah.
You knew this?
So when I talked to Battery, he said that when they played Team Freedom, they were surprised that Team Freedom busted out the Diva versus them. And then since then, they're like, hey, this hero's all right. We're going to figure this out. So they're pretty excited to bring on their Diva. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. If they've, especially if they built any form of hype behind it, I'm down to see it. It just, I feel like bottom lane is going to have a hard time in this game for Even and Death. But also, maybe I shouldn't even say that. After the last game, Superstars definitely had a better early game. They definitely had better wave clear, and they should have been able to control 2 lanes, and they just didn't. So I feel like I want to say that exact same thing. Bottom should struggle. Top should be roughly a 50-50 between the two. But again, if you're losing in the one, it's going to hurt eventually. So I want to say, Dahaka, I like him a lot in that matchup, and this should be Superstars slowly gaining advantage. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Somehow I feel like Even in Death is going to get a lot of picks that maybe they shouldn't into the 4.
We'll have to see how the Diva does work for Even in Death, because the one thing that I do know is that Battery likes playing Diva, and so to play and to draft Diva, they actually switch what is normally their melee flex player, who is homicidal, onto the main warrior, just so Battery gets, so he can play to win.
So he can play to win.
So he can play to win. All right, let's get into the game. Team of the Spider Queen is game number 2. We've got Superstars up 1 game so far in this best of 5.
So here it is in the blue, and in fact is Superstars. Once again, Srey is going to be on the Gul'dan. Hosty will be the Genji. Yoda's on his Dahaka. Iacona, as always, on supporting. He's got the Rhaegar, and Urho will be the variant.
Over in the red, once again, Even in Death, our newest team to HGC North America. Battery playing Diva Lutano on Tychus, Hao playing Uther, Greymane played by Frozen X, and finally Homicidal playing a new Barat.
Shout out to Lutano for repping the greatest skin in the world.
Is it the pink version though?
I actually haven't looked at all the in-game color variations of it all.
It's not because it's a Super Soaker.
It's just one of the first times I've gotten to actually see this skin.
It is really cool.
So I'm really happy.
I've been loving to see all of the Happy Cloud mounts already.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. It's a 2-1-2 for Superstars here. What is this? Rhaegar, Genji, Varian placeholder up in mid. The placeholder in mid, usually you want to have wave clear for a 2-1-2, and it's going to just absolutely get smashed.
Yeah.
So Varian is the 1 is not necessarily the ideal situation. Dahaka Genji as your 2-man.
They're just alternate.
Not very good either.
They're alternate rotating. So they went up and cleared out top. Are they scared of Even in Death in the early game? Maybe because Erho hasn't quite built up yet?
Srey with that knock-up. Man. Even in Death is just dishing out the death there. Nice drag on the Battery, but he's going to have human form Diva after that. He's nowhere near a bad spot. Can always boost on out. Oh, Yoda.
Comes back up out of the burrow. A-okay. Yeah, it might just be that Superstars, because Varian takes a little while to ramp up. Gul'dan, we know he has to take a little while to be able to build up his stacks for Echoed Corruption. Maybe they just wanted to do the alternate rotating, try to push the wave so that they aren't in a place where they can get caught by the chain CC that we saw be able to get the first kill.
Yeah, I can totally see that as an argument for why we saw that coming out for Superstars. It was just, the weirdest thing about it is normally when you see the team going for that, you feign the running a 4-man first, right? Because you don't want to give it away that fast, but then they immediately show what they're going to do. So essentially, you're just giving a little bit more information a little bit faster to your opponents. It's not really that major of a setback. It just comes down to like one of those, I've never seen somebody approach it this way and then convert over to it, right? Because in the end, the laning phase is so fast that realistically, you don't have to start in any direction. It's just how you end up rotating after the first minion wave dies.
Battery and Lutano fairly low here in the bottom lane. Even Death has sort of responded by having 2 in the bottom 2, and with a quick response, takes out another member of Superstars in the early game. If Even and Death keep this up, they should be able to get the first turn in.
Both of those kills are on Stray. And that's just one of those, again, yes, it is a flex roll, and yes, Even and Death is picking on him, but it's one of those fool me once. You know, it can only happen so many times, especially when you're on a hero like Gul'dan. Your backline range, you're known to be the terror when left alone and aided. But Superstars is going to have to figure that out before this game's over. Battery, we see converted back into human form here.
Well, consider the heroes that we saw Stray play last week versus this week. So far, we've seen him twice on Gul'dan, but last week was more Illidan and Chen. He tweeted, actually, that that was his first Chen game in competitive too. So he is still figuring out things, but, you know, who else is figuring some stuff out? Hosty gets his first kill for his team.
Hosty is he's a weird player to be able to gauge in strength, man. He has some moments where he just impresses me. And then others where, you know, it's not necessarily, it's never like a misplay or anything. It's just, he's known for specific heroes to play really, really well. But the more I see him venture outward, the more I'm like, why are you only known for these heroes? You know, like even there on Genji, yes, it wasn't maybe a miracle play, but it's just, he's going and he's doing his job, always. He's a consistent player, I think is the best way to describe Hosty. And I like that now with Stray kind of moving to a different role, we see Hosty on different heroes because he's suddenly shining on more things than what I view as normally like Tacit or Zarya Falstad, right? That's what I think of when I think of Hosty.
Well, somebody had to fill the role, or fill the hole that was left once Faye was off the team too.
Yeah.
She did a lot of the flexing for the team, so in that instance it seems to be Hosty, and he is filling in knowing that Stray is going to take some time to make the adjustments for the team. Airho is another pick for Even and Death as they're working their way toward their first turn-in, but so too are Superstars. They've been able to turn in some gems in these rotations back and forth.
Yeah, 3 picks already for Even and Death is a really solid sign, and Superstars, again, has not been too dominant when it comes to pressuring up those front walls. Yoda having a hard time there over into the lane. I can tell you this much, we at least have seen an argument as to why that Tychus rotation was picked into that department, especially within transition down into the D.Va later on, because the 2 versus 1, the 3-2 split that we see more frequently here in North America, Tychus is so very good against Dahaka, and D.Va's really good at wearing out that damage.
Yeah, but now we do have Live by the Sword, so we'll see how that's going to be up against Varian. It can be really frustrating to play Tychus versus him when he has both of those stacks up. Web Weavers have spawned for Superstars. They're starting to push in toward trying to get some towers down as best they can. Arrow has been spotted by Homicidal, trying to slow him down so that his teammates can get back behind the gate. Arrow does charge into Frozen X.
Homicidal got a little bit of a, you know, just zoning out there. The members of Superstars, they want to move on up, and this Web Weaver is going to be Gonzo. Mid is the last one to stand. Experience is almost dead even from these teams, even after this Web Weaver phase in the pressure up into the front wall. This turret will help a little bit over to Superstars, but because they're sacrificing experience both on bottom and up on top, Even in Death is just even in experience, not death.
And that is a very good place to be. You've got to feel really good knowing that you got through your opponent's first Web Weaver phase because you made them not be able to get to a place where they could snowball. So as long as Even and Death plays out the next couple of minutes, well, it's likely they can get their next Web Weaver phase and try to do the same. Yoda's been caught. Battery comes in with a boost, trying to get into a position where maybe you could body block him. Battery does not have a self-destruct in this position yet, so we'll pop out into the pilot mode, and Airho, perfect flank. D.Va's down.
Yeah, Hosty immediately gets the follow-up there. Now Homicidal, look at that. He's got 27 gems. Yoda's in hot pursuit. Nice heals coming out from Hao, making sure there's no reset available. Frozen X has got it back, but Even in Death did manage to sneak themselves a Web Weaver phase in the meantime. The problem is, Superstars is closing in so much into 10 that it's probably unrealistic that Even in Death can do much with this unless they force this second.
Yeah, that's really frustrating for Even in Death. They did get the Web Weaver phase, but losing somebody put them behind in experience, and they have to deal with the bruisers and the mid. So where they were hoping that they could just negate pressure now, it's basically sort of a wash in Web Weaver phase, maybe even still favoring Superstars because they were able to take some towers down with those first 50 gems. But Even in Death are starting to climb their way back and catch up. Superstars not quite getting heroic abilities, they're just now there. Nothing out of the ordinary yet. We'll see what Even in Death gets.
Patiently, we wait for the 10. Divine Shield's going to be picked up. It's going to be big shot there for D.Va. And everybody else sticking with the norm here. Nobody going too far out of the comfort zone. Even got Iacona to pick his heroic before level 11, so no talent holding near today. Iacona playing traditional support here, not the sneaky snake. Superstars got the camp up on bottom, but nobody's pushing for a turn-in. Both teams are kind of just seeing what the other one's thinking. It's a nice little limbo we found ourselves in there for a moment. Both sides are like, yeah, you guys cool with this? Yeah, we're cool.
Oh, immediate. Superstars all turn in at once. First bullet, Horrify off the back, and we've got Hosty in the back line wreaking havoc to Even in Death. Lutano's already down. He jumps in. How is the next to be a target? Has to use Divine Shield on himself. Even in Death only lose Tychus, but it's enough time for Superstars to push them back. That
was great follow-up once again. Hosty immediately, when Varian goes in, just following up, making the damage happen there. Horrify being used to be able to peel off Sray. It's kind of interesting how this team fight is played out for Superstars because Even in Death is putting so much emphasis into Sray, almost like an unrealistic amount for a traditional Gul'dan, that now Hosty can kind of just be like, okay, I am a Genji with a Dragon Blade. And it turns out there's a reason he's so highly contested all over the world. He does a lot of the damages.
And once Sray can build up those Echoed Corruption stacks, he can chunk out a lot of the health bars of Even in Death. So as we get later and later into this game, it's only going to be easier as long as those hit to be able to try to get the resets for Genji off of the Corruption and all of the poison damage that Gul'dan does. So far, Odin's been used from Lutano to clear out the mid. That fort stays alive. Bottom fort has been kept alive. Really, it's just the last hope of Superstars to try to take out here in top.
Sierho is trying to get a taunt. Not going to be able to get in range. Homicidal is a questionable target just because you have Guardian of the Ancient Kingdom from Hao. And then also a Nubarak with his Burrow Charge is a really nice escape here, but the Web Weaver phase has come to an end. We find ourselves with Superstars having almost an entire level lead. They will have that 13 talent tier spike. But Even in Death, they've got enough for the Web Weaver phase themselves, and 13 is one of the most appealing, later game talent tiers to take a fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if they look to try and force a turn in and still take that fight. Obviously, waiting for 13 is ideal, but they might not be able to do that considering, Superstars is close enough on their own. They're only 20 out. And again, that is 2 waves and 1/3.
Not too far away for Superstars being able to get that. But Even in Death now will have their Odin in 15 seconds. They're trying to keep alive this mid fort, but Superstars using that 13 advantage, seeing if they can force a fight. If not, they'll take down the fort, get a little bit extra experience, open up the battleground more, as they've had trouble being able to take down the forts of Even in Death so far.
Yeah, they have managed to struggle. Yoda coming in from the backside there. You see him miss that. A nice Horrify coming out from Sray. Oh, so you see dashing and diving on in. Homicidal does not land with the Burrow Charge. Cocoon reveal is there. Nice flash you see, but Frozen X did not get the kill. Odin is dropped, but the members of Superstars just running away. They don't want this fight, and they are not going to take it.
Even in Death throws back the members of Superstars. They're trying to get a turn in before they get an unreasonable amount of gems. They were sitting at 101. So Red Web Weavers descend. Now Even in Death have a shot of being able to take out some of the structures for Superstars. Where do they set up first? A lot of members trying to push out the wave in mid, but they're going to move up. They've gotten to a fight. Divine Shield stops the taunt.
Yeah, the Divine Shield using to stop the taunt, and then Frozen X backing out. That is, again, one of those communication errors you can't have. Nice Cursed Bullet going into Hosty. We see the Mecha Explosion drop. Urho's going to wear that and be like, that's why parrying is a thing. We got mid and bottom Web Weavers though, Gilly.
The self-destruct 2, though, was nicely placed for where the Haka was going to brush talk in. Kept Yoda from maybe wanting to go in and catch somebody in the back. But yep, mid Web Weavers top pushed with even in death, but they're going to try to rotate into the mid now and do something with the Web Weavers. Man, both teams having a hard time sieging.
Yeah, just having a hard time getting anything done. Another taunt on a Homicidal. Posty moves up, forcing himself to Dragon Blade just to try and use the extra distance gained. He thought he was going to die and overextended. Now realizing he's safe, tries to get a bit of value there. And bottom's going to be cleared out now by Yoda. So we get past another Web Weaver phase, and our every structure stands.
So let's look at the compositions into the late game. Where do you see a lot of strength for maybe the teams, maybe their compositions specifically?
I mean, for Superstars, a lot of it comes down to Varian's cooldown is just so short.
Yeah.
It's one of those like Varian is such an easy hero to gain value out of. Against teams like Even in Death, that's got to be like your worst nightmare, honestly. Because you not only have to play really well into a team that is debatably at least considered to be better than you, but then you have to play almost perfectly for every, like, what, 20-second initiation, and it can be a lot harder. So I would argue Superstars, just because the simplicity of Varian and, again, the youth of a team like Even in Death makes me naturally go like, that's a better hero there than maybe it should be. But I like Even in Death's, I feel like, composition overall a little bit better. I think if they use proper use of the Tychus and specifically the Odin, we saw used maybe not as optimally as it should be.
Yeah,
and
more defensively instead of siege-oriented.
Yeah, when we see it used in the siege manner, suddenly I feel like a lot of these structures would be mowed down. But I mean, the same argument could be made on the other side with Srey. He's got Gul'dan sitting 13 minutes in on a team with Spider Queen, and 3 Web Weavers knock down the first forward.
2 forts down, top sieging freely without Even in Death defending. They instead are going to try to make sure that they can defend their keep structures. Battery has a self-destruct if things get hairy for the defense here in mid. Seeing a lot of the members here, he may just use it right here, but at the same time, oh, there was the taunt. The Web Weaver's pretty low.
Yeah, it is very, very low. It's going to force some members of Superstars to transition outward towards top. But that Web Weaver's very low as well. 1 flask alone can almost kill the whole thing. Except it was thrown half a second early. Feels bad. All right, so now, Even in Death, they still need to wait out their 16 Talonteers. They do have enough gems for the turn-in. Boss is now forced by Superstars. Nice job by Yoda going out on the map. He's shown himself, so Even in Death may be second-guessing if the boss is going to be a thing. But I assure you, in a couple of seconds, they will know.
And not even any movement out to try to get Web Weavers against them. So Even in Death are just going to have to deal with the Web Weavers. At least there's no Superstar Web Weavers behind this, though.
I'm going to be honest, I actually like the fact that Even in Death didn't respond. Because, like, let's think about the circumstance where they force the turn-in, then top gets dealt with, and then while you're dealing with the boss, everything else gets removed. That's good when you're down in experience, to be able to buy time when your team is winning. But you're close to this enough, why would you waste 1/3 of your Web Weavers? Like, just let this happen. They aren't pushing with this boss. They're afraid to move up and make anything happen. It's definitely not going to end the game. Worst case, you lost a keep. Hopefully your rebuttal afterwards can make up for that. And again, that's a very worst case scenario, even to lose that key.
Yeah, that's true, and they do have a lot of single target damage to deal with the boss really quickly. They have their Greymane, they have their Tychus too, so they bring that down right away. Superstars really didn't do much other than just push up and try to do some more damage to the mid keep, but they still didn't get a keep down.
Yeah, they did not, and that is going to be maybe something that haunts them a bit later. We've seen in North America a lot of, you know, what happens when we get to the point of this Towers or Tomb of the Spider Queen middle ground, where it's just kind of beginning to question when you can find the map objective, when you can find your actual win condition. A lot of pressure here up on bottom, Even in Death. They move up. Battery is testing out the waters. Throws down the defense matrix. Nothing else. Nothing gained, nothing lost. Nothing even really risked. Just kind of, they like, you know, matching up side by side. Fist bumping. Wait a minute.
Still looking for the fight, though. This is a fight Even in Death should want to take now, especially because Superstars are getting closer to 20. It's a 16 to 18 fight for them. They find Srey, Horrify hits. Battery's pushed into the fort.
But he has Mecha. He's going to drop it, but he's, look at that, that's 29 gems. He goes up, explosion does land, but now that is down. Look at the Odin to Yoda with so much value there. The damage is real. Lutano's now dead, taunt onto How. And this looks like what is going to be the beginning of the end. Nice ancestral play again, and look at Yoda, man. This guy is just making plays that are on the Dahaka.
And he is trying to take out one more member. Hal being taken down by Sray. A final corruption to seal the deal. Team wipe on all the members of Even and Death. It was staggered out. Diva will be back in 14 seconds. Superstars can at least take down a keep here. Do they position for more?
They should be able to. This should be game. But Diva is also a weird hero. They can be kind of scary at times. Sray has the damage though. Shielding already gone.
There's no self-destruct here too.
Defense matrix thrown down. I'm not sure if that's how that works, but I can understand the thought process here. 40%, 20%, and that is game 2 over to Superstars.
A slower Tomb of the Spider Queen game, but it did seem like Superstars, although it took them a while to get forts, once they did, they never really had any trouble with the control of game from that point. Being able to go and get the boss, stayed just barely ahead, just enough ahead of Even in Death. But I also felt like Even in Death, a lot of times, had trouble figuring out where to fight Superstars.
Yeah, they were trying to understand, like, is this the is this our best case? Like, do we get that 5 minutes from now? Is it going to be 2 minutes from now? Where was it? And then it was just like, oh, the game's pretty much over now. That's not fun. Yeah, I agree with you. It felt like they never hit the moment where it's like, okay, this has to stop. Like, this is the problem. This has to stop. Let's all in that. And sometimes that can be, it can look really bad, but at least you can understand the thought process there. It was just kind of like, eventually Superstars is going to win this game, is how it felt like Even in Death was going to play it out. It's just, you know, and just every fight, especially with like the Odin, I feel like if those had been used better to siege, it might have been a different game.
Yeah, even self-destruct. We saw, I think, maybe one offensive, like very offensive self-destruct. I'm thinking of the one that was in the bush when Yoda was brush talking up, but otherwise, it did feel like they just could not figure out where the opening was, whether it was fear of coming out into pilot mode, because, again, we saw what happened. There was a taunt right there, and all of a sudden Diva was just blown up. But whatever it was, Even in Death is now down 2 games in this best of 5. Superstars 1 game away, being able to win it with a clean sweep. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, we'll have that game number 3. See you soon.